My wife got pregnant by my coworker and thought I'd never know, but I'm infertile, so I smiled, said nothing. And made one move that changed all. I first got married when I was 20 years old. My ex-wife, Trish, and I were high school sweethearts. I was the small-town hockey star who everyone knew was going somewhere. She was the smart, cute, funny pastor's daughter whom everyone loved. We had our daughter when we were 21 and our son when we were 24. We had a miscarriage between the two. After our son, my ex-wife and I decided we didn't want any more children, so we agreed I should get a vasectomy. Without telling anyone, I didn't feel the need to announce it to the world. I went for a simple outpatient surgery, returned to work, and no one was the wiser. My ex-wife and I ended up drifting apart, and we separated amicably. It wasn't that we didn't love each other, we did, but the love changed. She started a home organization business after the kids were old enough to be more independent, and she became very successful. She wanted to grow the brand, so she invested a lot of time in it. I was still passionate about my work and was getting deployed all over Canada to teach. We both drifted apart, but we fully supported each other's lives. Trish and I are still great friends and see each other constantly. We've even shared holidays together. Devin and Trish were on good terms, too, and they even went out and did things without me. They had a great relationship. Now, about Jeff and his wife. We all spent a lot of time together. We had a Friendsmas and a Friendsgiving every year. We camped together and did a lot as a group. When Jeff said he was getting a divorce from his wife, Amy, it hit the friend group hard. We tried our best to support them however they needed. However, Amy was tough on Jeff, saying she was going to take the kids to Ontario to live with her parents. Naturally, Jeff was devastated. He tried his best to keep his kids here, but she ended up moving and took the kids with her. It was rough to see him go through that, and it was hard to see him treated that way, losing his children. During this time, Jeff leaned on us heavily. Because they had to sell their house, we let Jeff stay with us temporarily until he got back on his feet. That temporary stay turned into a bit longer than we would have liked. Devin suggested we renovate the garage and turn it into a suite. I complied. Jeff was gracious about it, helped out, and spent time making the space his own. It was a bit of an annoyance, but I wanted to help in any way I could. At least he was out of the house and in his own space, so Devin and I could have proper alone time without worrying if Jeff could hear us, if you catch my drift. Now, about Devin. She worked as a dispatch agent for a while, which is how we met. The job was stressful, so she stuck it out for 2 years. Now she works as a hairstylist and loves it. Devin and I met a few months after my divorce from Trish was finalized. We hit it off really well. She's actually 8 years older than I am. She said she didn't want any kids, and she was really fun, wild, even. We had motorcycles, went on hunting trips, and she was like one of the guys, but also feminine in a way that was exciting. She was everything I needed at the time. We shared the same interests and hobbies. Because she mentioned she didn't want kids, I thought, great, I don't have to worry about telling her I had a vasectomy. So, the topic never came up. Yes, I know I'm a terrible person for not telling her, but since kids were never discussed, it just didn't happen. She was the best stepmom to my kids and always said that was enough. She wasn't even the marrying type until I felt like I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. It just felt right. She wasn't against marriage, but she didn't expect it or need it. She was so relaxed about it, and I love that about her. We had a small, intimate backyard wedding with a fire and a barbecue. It was perfect for us. Shortly after we got married, Jeff went through his divorce and was staying with us. We worked together but had different shifts, so he and Devin were often at home together alone. At first, I thought Devin was just being helpful and a good friend. After a while, it started getting weird. I'd text her during the day to ask how her day was going, and she'd say, "Oh, Jeff and I are just out for lunch," or "Jeff and I are running errands." I thought it was odd, but then they started going to movies and concerts together. When I was home, I noticed things that rubbed me the wrong way. He touched her arm when she was talking to him. She touched his bicep when he made her laugh. She dished him up food but wouldn't do the same for me. She constantly brought him up, saying things like, "Jeff told me about this," or "Jeff said the funniest thing." Red flags were definitely raised. Even though Jeff had settled into the garage suite, a space we had painstakingly renovated to give him independence, he and Devin maintained an unsettling closeness that extended far beyond the boundaries of friendship. Late into the night, long after the world outside had quieted, their connection persisted through the soft glow of her phone screen. There she was, lying beside me in our bed, her laughter spilling out in soft, unguarded bursts as she texted him. I'd lie there, my heart heavy, attempting to rekindle the spark between us, perhaps with a gentle massage, my hands tracing the familiar contours of her shoulders in a quiet plea for intimacy. But her attention remained tethered to her phone, her fingers dancing across the screen, oblivious to my efforts. She'd brush me off, her disinterest a silent rebuke, and I'd turn away, rolling over to face the wall, letting the ache of rejection lull me into a restless sleep. Then there were the gifts, small but insidious tokens that began to pile up like pieces of a puzzle I was reluctant to assemble. Jeff presented her with a collection of bath products, a seemingly innocent gesture, luxurious soaps and oils for the bathtub, including a sleek gift set that contained a bottle of massage oil. At first, I dismissed it as a thoughtful, if slightly inappropriate, present from a friend. But a week later, I noticed the bottle had been opened, its contents noticeably diminished. I hadn't used it on her, the thought hadn't even crossed my mind. My initial instinct was to rationalize it. Perhaps she'd repurposed it as a lotion, a practical use for something so indulgent. Yet, the oil had a distinct, almost haunting fragrance, a blend of lavender and sandalwood that lingered in the air. I began to recall moments when that same scent had drifted from Jeff, subtle but unmistakable, clinging to him like a secret. I said nothing, though the realization gnawed at me. Each observation became a mental note, meticulously catalogued in the quiet corners of my mind. The laughter, the gifts, the scent, they were fragments of evidence, building a case I wasn't yet ready to confront. I kept my silence, watching, waiting, as the truth slowly took shape in the shadows of my suspicion. Late one night, as we lay in the quiet darkness of our bedroom, the weight of the silence broken only by the soft hum of the world outside, Devon turned to me, her voice cutting through the stillness. "I want a baby," she said, her words landing like a sudden spark in the night. I froze, caught off guard by the unexpected declaration. My heart skipped a beat, and I managed only a stunned, "What?" She shifted closer, her eyes searching mine in the dim light, and repeated with quiet determination, "I think we should have a baby." Her voice carried a mix of hope and urgency, as if she had been wrestling with this thought for longer than I realized. I blinked, my mind racing to catch up. I reminded her gently, "Devon, we agreed we wouldn't have kids." My words felt heavy, tethered to the unspoken truth of my vasectomy, a secret I had kept buried deep. She frowned, her expression tightening. "I've been thinking about it," she said, her tone edged with a quiet defiance. "I want a baby before we're too old. Don't you think it's time?" Her words stirred a pang of unease in me. I hesitated, choosing my response carefully. "Devon, I don't know," I said, my voice soft but firm. "A baby? It's a lot. It takes so much time, so much energy." Her face darkened, and she sat up slightly, her voice sharp with frustration. "Don't treat me like I'm some old child of yours," she snapped, her words slicing through the fragile calm of the moment. The accusation stung, and I felt the conversation slipping into dangerous territory. I tried to steady the course, explaining, "That's not what I meant. I thought we'd talked about this before. You seemed okay with being a stepmom, with the life we have." She leaned back, her eyes narrowing as if I'd struck a nerve. "So I'm not allowed to change my mind?" she challenged, her voice rising with emotion. "You're saying I can't be a mom?" The question hung in the air, heavy with hurt and accusation. I could see the dream of motherhood flickering in her eyes, a longing I hadn't anticipated. I took a deep breath, trying to diffuse the tension. "That's not what I'm saying at all," I replied, my tone measured but laced with the weight of my unspoken truth. "I just think we need to talk more about this. Maybe now isn't the right time to make such a big decision." My words felt inadequate, a temporary shield against the deeper conversation I wasn't ready to have. She pressed further, her voice trembling with frustration. "When would be a good time, then? When will you be ready to talk about it?" Her question was a plea, but it carried an edge of impatience that made my chest tighten. I wanted to tell her everything, about the vasectomy, about the impossibility of her request, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I offered a compromise. "Let's sleep on it," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "We can make time to talk about this tomorrow, really figure it out together." But my attempt at peace fell flat. Her face hardened, and without another word, she threw back the covers and stormed out of the room, her footsteps echoing down the hall. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving me alone in the darkness with the weight of my secret and the growing suspicion that something was deeply wrong. Her sudden desire for a child, so at odds with everything we'd built together, gnawed at me, whispering truths I wasn't yet ready to face. In that heated moment, as the weight of Devon's words hung heavy in the air, I found myself unable to summon the courage to reveal the truth that had silently shaped my life for years. I couldn't bring myself to tell her about the vasectomy I'd had long ago, a decision made in the quiet certainty of my past marriage, rendering it physically impossible for me to father a child unless I pursued a reversal, a procedure that offered no guarantees, its success rate far from 100%. The words caught in my throat, trapped by a mix of fear, guilt, and the raw sting of betrayal that was beginning to take root. There was something unsettling about the entire conversation, a subtle dissonance that gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. Her sudden, fervent desire for a baby felt like a sharp departure from the woman I thought I knew. Devon had never once hinted at wanting children, her contentment as a stepmom to my kids seemingly enough, her wild spirit aligned with our carefree life of shared adventures. This abrupt shift, this unexpected longing, struck me as jarring, like a note played out of tune in a familiar melody. My instincts, honed by years in law enforcement, were sounding alarms, a quiet but persistent warning that something was amiss. Deep down, a chilling certainty began to form, though I wasn't ready to fully face it. I was almost sure I knew what was happening: her late-night texts with Jeff, the lingering glances, the gifts that carried a scent I couldn't ignore. The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture I dreaded to acknowledge. Yet, I knew I had to play along, to mask my growing suspicions with a facade of normalcy. I needed time to confirm the truth, to gather the evidence that would either shatter my world or set me free from the illusion I'd been living. So, I held my silence, letting the moment pass, my heart heavy with the weight of what I couldn't yet say. The next day, I apologized and said, "Yes, I'm game. Let's make a baby." She literally jumped for joy, and we tried 5 times that day. About a week later, she handed me a box containing a positive pregnancy test. I could have cried. I was stunned. I knew it couldn't be mine. I'm not an expert, but I don't think you can find out you're pregnant a week after conception. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I had a hunch the baby wasn't mine. I knew it must be Jeff's. I started watching them closely. Devon and I agreed not to tell anyone we were pregnant right away, but I caught Jeff grazing her belly out of the corner of my eye. I pretended not to see it, but he touched her belly in a loving way. A few weeks later, she said she was going to the doctor for her first exam to see how far along she was and that Jeff was going to drive her because he had errands in the area. I insisted on taking time off to be there, saying, "I'm the father. I want to be there." She weakly grinned and said, "Great, of course you do." At the appointment, the doctor asked her when she thought she conceived. She gave the date we were intimate. After the ultrasound, the doctor said she was 12 weeks along. I said, "How is that possible?" She acted shocked, saying, "Doc, is this for real?" The doctor said, "Seems like you have a miracle." I pretended to be ecstatic to avoid tipping her off that I knew something. When we got home, I continued pretending, and she said, "It was meant to be." What a miracle. I'm so excited. We were intimate again that night. I turned over and fell asleep. I had the next day off, but I knew she had to get up early for a wedding. Jeff also had to go to work. That was my chance. I packed all her belongings, stockpiled them in our trailer, and parked it on the street. I had a spare key to Jeff's suite, so I packed his stuff and threw it in the trailer, then put a big lock on the suite so he couldn't get in. When Devon returned home that afternoon, she immediately noticed the trailer parked conspicuously on the street, loaded with her belongings. I had taken the precaution of changing the locks on all the doors and updating the garage access code, ensuring she could no longer enter our home. Frustrated and confused, she pounded on the front door, her knocks echoing with a mix of desperation and disbelief. I chose not to face her directly. Instead, I activated the doorbell camera and spoke through it, my voice steady but heavy with resolve. "Devon, it's over," I said. "I know that baby isn't mine." Her reaction was immediate and chaotic. She called me crazy, her voice cracking as tears streamed down her face. She stood there, sobbing loudly, creating a spectacle that drew the curious gazes of our neighbors. Their faces appeared in doorways and behind curtains, watching the unraveling of our marriage with quiet fascination. I pressed on, undeterred by her protests. "This baby isn't mine, Devon. It's Jeff's," I stated, the words cutting through the air like a blade. She recoiled, her eyes wide with shock. "Don't be insane," she retorted, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. "Why would it be Jeff's?" I leaned closer to the camera, my tone calm but unyielding. "You tell me," I replied. "There's less than a 1% chance that child is mine. You see, I had a vasectomy years ago." The revelation hit her like a physical blow. Her purse and bag slipped from her hands, tumbling to the ground as she stood frozen, her face a portrait of stunned disbelief. She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, "Let me explain." But I had heard enough. The evidence had been mounting for weeks, her late-night texts with Jeff, the lingering touches, the subtle shifts in her behavior. I shook my head, though she couldn't see me. "Save it," I interrupted, my voice firm but laced with the pain of betrayal. "I know that baby isn't mine. We're done, Devon. I've packed your things in the trailer. It's time for you to leave." She stood there, rooted to the spot, her world crumbling under the weight of my words. The life we had built together, the laughter, The shared adventures, the quiet moments of love, all of it had been tainted by her deception. I watched through the camera as she struggled to process the finality of it all, her tears a silent acknowledgement of the truth she could no longer deny. She called someone, likely Jeff, because he showed up minutes later in a patrol car. He saw the lock on the garage suite and told me I was losing my mind and that the kid couldn't possibly be his. I said, I'll believe it when I see a paternity test. Some people have asked how she never suspected not getting pregnant before. She was on birth control pills for PCOS, or so she told me. Supposedly, she was switching pill brands and just happened to get pregnant with Jeff's baby. Bad timing. Also, she had a strong aversion to semen, to put it lightly. She was repulsed by it and refused to let me finish inside her. She rarely pleased me in other ways because the sight of it disgusted her. I won't go into details. As an update, I'm getting divorced again. Another failed marriage feels awful, but what can you do? During the divorce, Devin got a paternity test, which confirmed what I believed: the baby is Jeff's. He knew all along and was willing to play along, thinking he could live in the garage suite forever and raise his baby as Uncle Jeff from afar. A buddy of mine did me a favor and got Jeff transferred to a small northern town, literally in the middle of nowhere. Devin followed him there. She was trying to pretend I impregnated her so I wouldn't catch on to the affair. My vasectomy saved me from raising a child that wasn't mine. By the time she realized she was pregnant, it was too late. Trish and I talk every day. She checks in on me and is being an absolute sweetheart. I'm spending a lot of time with my kids and trying to be the best dad I can be. This is a classic tale of love, betrayal, and a vasectomy that became the ultimate truth serum. Betrayal is the ultimate sucker punch from life's playbook, delivered by a lifelong friend turned traitor. When you've known someone since you were young, you think they're as solid as the ground beneath your feet. Then they shatter that illusion with the finesse of a wrecking ball through a glass house by impregnating your wife. Betrayal is a harsh teacher, but it's also a wake-up call. There I was, living my life, thinking I had it all figured out with Devin by my side. Meanwhile, Devin and Jeff were busy playing house behind my back with whispered conversations and secret rendezvous. Well, it looks like I've collected another marriage certificate for the failed relationship scrapbook. At least I'm racking up experience points for the game of love, right? What are your thoughts? Share them with us in the comments below, and thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Until next time, bye.